I thank you very much, Ms. Caroline, and definitely this COP is very important vis-à-vis Africa, and Egypt is speaking in the voice of the African continent at this COP. Tell me more about what do you think what is expected for Africa and from vision to implementation at COP27?
Thank you. As I've been introduced, I'm Caroline Aguti, and I work with the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development in Uganda. This is an African COP, and I think it is very important. It is very clear that the focus of this COP is really on finance. And we expect that at the end of this conference, we should be able to see Africa realize the finances in terms of loss and damage and adaptation. Because certainly this is where we need most of the financing, because Africa, in terms of carbon emissions, emits less, but you find that it is most of the African countries that are actually suffering from the effects of climate change. But also we expect that given our unique situations as African countries, we expect that this COP should be able to enable us achieve the development of our natural resources given our unique situations. But we also expect that the developed countries should be able to support the least developed countries to be able to develop their energy transition strategies such that they are just and equitable, and support them in terms of implementation by deployment of the right technology, but also support towards skills development and support towards resources for implementation of those particular aspects in terms of the energy transition strategies. Most of the African countries actually have renewable energy resources which are actually diversified. So we expect that through this COP, we emphasize our unique nature as African countries, and we should be supported with resources to be able to implement that. Thank you.
Yes, and definitely we're working together through this sense of togetherness. We will be facing all the hazards of climate change. What is quite interesting this COP is that we're talking implementation. We're from vision to implementation. In your opinion concerning implementation, how can we achieve the Africa that we aspire? How can we work to save the environment, in your opinion, through this sense of collaboration and constructive work together?
I think what is very important that Africans have to learn how to work as a bloc. And we expect that African Union, in this case, should be able to be at the forefront to see that all the African countries work as a bloc. And we should be supported in terms of resources. And we expect that all the countries that are actually developing their natural resources should be able to speak together as a voice to actually ensure that we are supported. We know that in terms of development of our natural resources, we actually have natural resources which can support us with the energy transition. We take an example of Uganda. We have green minerals. We have the rare earth elements, we have copper, we have cobalt, we have lithium, which are actually very important in terms of the transition to green transition. But it is very important that we come together as African countries and see how we can actually leverage the support in terms of getting affordable finance, but also getting the technologies which are right in terms of development of our resources as the African countries. But we need to work together and move together as a bloc of African countries.
Yes, it has been a very fruitful year, Egypt's vision and presidency of the African Union, and we have collaborated together on more than one front, working for Africa and with Africa. Definitely we're reaping the fruit. We can see here also lots of entrepreneurs, African entrepreneurs sharing, and heads of parties and delegations. The role of the private sector, in your opinion, working hand in hand with African governments to achieve this sense of action?
Certainly we need the private sector, because without the private sector we cannot progress. So we need to really make sure that we build synergies and work with the private sector, but also we should also be able to work with the non-state actors like the NGOs to actually ensure that dissemination of the technologies, but also community awareness is actually enhanced. So certainly, yes, we need the private sector. We have emerging technologies like green hydrogen, and I think in terms of green hydrogen in Africa, Egypt is taking lead. So we expect that as the African countries, we should be able to learn from Egypt on how you have been able to progress in terms of development of green hydrogen and other technologies. We see that Egypt is actually advanced in terms of what you are doing as a country towards a green transition, and we expect that the African countries should be able to work together to emulate from what Egypt is doing and work together as a bloc to ensure that we achieve our objectives as the African countries.
Yes.
Thank you.
Your impressions, let me tell you, concerning Sharm and I wonder whether it's your first time in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt. If you'd like to transmit a message through you, Caroline, to the world about the vibes and the beat here in Sharm el-Sheikh, what would you tell them?
This is not my first time in Sharm el-Sheikh. I was here in 2018 for the Convention on Biological Diversity. But certainly, yes, that is a smaller convention in terms of attendance. But this one is really a big one, because I can see people have been walking and they are saying the venue is too big and spacious. It's like 4 football pitches. So we really expect that people are going to wear the right attire, the right walking shoes. But the reception has been very good in terms of registration. The registration process is very smooth. When we got at the airport, the process was very smooth, and the transportation is actually available to facilitate the different participants to the right location where they are. The meeting rooms are spacious, and the attendance, there is an indication that there will be 35,000 people in this conference compared to the 24,000 that were there in Glasgow. This is an African COP, and we need to make it happen that we really achieve our objectives as Africa.
Definitely a message through Nile TV International, maybe to a country and fellow men watching in Uganda. What would you tell them?
To the people in Uganda, we want to let you know that we are here. We have arrived at the COP. We have just had the opening plenary, and we are beginning the actual conference tomorrow. But we expect that as African countries, we are going to achieve our objectives in terms of developing our natural resources given our unique situation. And we also expect that this COP is going to enable us to mobilize finances in terms of loss and damage, but also we expect that we should be supported in terms of capacity enhancement, technology, and the aspects of gender. So we expect that all in different aspects that Egypt is going to make us proud as Africa, and we look forward to fruitful deliberations.
Yes, great Egypt is going to make us proud and is making us proud as Africans. Thank you very much, Caroline Aguti, among the official delegation representing Uganda at COP27. Thank you so much for joining us here on Nile TV International, and we're still at the COP coverage. Join us for more coming on Nile TV International. Thank you.